welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. Let me remind everybody right off the bat that you can keep up with short commentaries on the development of the world crisis on Twitter. Go to Webster G. Tarpley, WEBSTERGTARPLEY, all one word, Webster Tarpley, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter. And you can see what I have to say about things as they happen. I had 4 or 5 tweets after the wretched, catastrophic Obama State of the Union address and the even more catastrophic and wretched response by Ryan and by the mentally unstable Madame or Mademoiselle Bachmann. So you can follow all that. You can also keep up at Tarpley.net. Tarpley.net. This week we have a new essay about the firing of Olbermann, which was done to benefit Obama, quite possibly ordered by Obama through Immelt, the GE hedge fund operator, profiteer. General Motors, not an industrial corporation, but a hedge fund in drag, as you'll read in that article, plus a commentary from Russia Today about the terrorism at Moscow airport. Headline, NATO intelligence, a prime suspect for quite a number of reasons. Now, we have a study in contrast today. On the one side, the finance oligarchs of the world, that banking elite, the upper 0.1% of the world, has their representatives meeting in Davos on the magic mountain, that Zauberberg that Thomas Mann wrote about. At that time, it was a tubercular clinic. Now it's a madhouse for finance oligarchs. So all the finance oligarchs who have these pretensions, and of course Arianna Huffington scampering along trying to get counted as one of them, maybe trying to find a prince or some royal family she can enter. The Davos is going on, and at the same time, the world is falling apart, most notably the wave of destabilization now across the Arab world. We pointed this out as soon as the Tunisian events occurred. We pointed to the mood of hysterical, manic, gloating activism that had gripped the National Security Council with Samantha Power, the State Department, of course, Hillary Clinton and her gang, and the CIA over in Langley, plus the other agencies. The idea that the color revolution was back with a vengeance, the CIA people power coup could now be revived after the ignominious failure in Iran in June of 2009. The Tunisia case showed that the depression, the fact that you now have food prices skyrocketing, fuel prices skyrocketing, both thanks to Wall Street speculators much more than the governments in these countries, and, of course, unemployment, all of this coming from the asset strippers, hedge fund hyenas, and derivatives mongers of Wall Street. The derivatives jobbers have done this job, not so much people like Ben Ali, whatever you think of the former Ben Ali. So now, in the course of this week, it has come to Egypt. Remember, get your copy of Obama, the Postmodern Coup, The Making of a Manchurian Candidate. You will read in there my forecast that the Obama regime would track Jimmy Carter in so many ways, and one of them is the destabilization of large countries in the Middle East. Now, Obama, of course, tried Iran. If things go further, he may try a second round in Iran. That is not to be excluded. But right now, Egypt, of course, quite enough to occupy our attention. Hosni Mubarak has been in power for 32 years. He had been in power for about 10 years when he joined the war coalition in the first Gulf War. You'll remember that Saddam Hussein mocked him as light-headed Hosni. Well, he's nevertheless been holding on for 32 years. This obviously is a government which has brought some stability, but not much else, and certainly not much in the way of economic progress, except we should point out that the political situation in Egypt always depends on the price of bread and the price of wheat. and that these deliveries of wheat are often controlled by the United States. And there are plenty of examples over the recent decades of things that the Egyptian government thought of doing, wanted to do, that they were prevented from doing simply by the idea that if you go ahead and do these things, we, the U.S., will make sure that you don't get any wheat. And then within a week or two, you'll have bread riots going on. And in some ways, what you've got going on right now is a bread riot with some political coloration laid over it by the international media because of the international significance of Tunisia, Assange, WikiLeaks, of course, the detonator of this entire thing. So we're told that Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, sees an earthquake across the entire Arab world. Notice, though, that what the CIA is doing, and the CIA is the prime outside agency involved in these things, it is the card of ochlocracy. It is mob rule. Notice that rioting, when you're rioting against austerity, rioting against the European Central Bank, rioting against the European Commission, or against Papandreou or Zapatero or Socrates or the Fianna Fáil, accent on fail, in Ireland, you're going to be demonized. That's going to be frowned on. But when you have mob rule in the Arab streets, this is applauded. And I understand now that the headquarters of Mubarak's political party is being burned down, and there is no indignation such as occurred when the bank in Athens was burned. Of course, a couple of people died in that, tragically enough. So it's clear that the U.S. is smiling on ochlocracy and mob rule in the case of Egypt. And, of course, we should always bear in mind the lessons of Marcos, a U.S. ally who was stabbed in the back by Paul Wolfowitz in that case. We should, of course, bear in mind the lessons of the Shah, another U.S. ally stabbed in the back by Carter Brzezinski. And, of course, it was with the help of Carter Brzezinski that the Shah was brought down and the successive regime was then brought in. What are the possibilities in Egypt? Let's just go through them. We can more or less give you an overview. Suppose Mubarak stays in power. This will then depend on the army. Remember, Mubarak is an Air Force pilot. He is a military man. He's essentially a general and a soldier himself. It's possible that Mubarak will stay in power. The army, which is a conscript army in the case of Egypt, has been sent into the streets, the army now being cheered by the civilians, the police not popular, but the army more so. The army, if the army decides to maintain Mubarak in power as an alternative to chaos, that probably leads to at least another period of several years of stagnation, depending on how long Mubarak stays alive. This, of course, is a perfectly feasible outcome. The Washington Post tells us that the Israeli intelligence believes that Mubarak can stay in power, and the fact that the Egyptians have developed a fairly sophisticated apparatus of repression, if you will, indicates that they might be able to keep Mubarak in power. Above all, because the Internet has now been shut down. So Twitter, Facebook, the entire CIA armory of subversion has essentially been muzzled. Apparently, cell phone service has been cut, even normal phone service, and indeed, quite possibly, even satellite phone service has been jammed, according to some of the Western destabilization agents that are in there. Al-Baradei has come back from his apartment in Vienna and is now under house arrest. We'll take a look at Al-Baradei in just a minute.